Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 15 of Dungeon Meshi. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Alright, so last we left off, things weren't particularly good for Elias and company. You know, they're low on food and rations. They're trying to get back to the surface, and they're all sort of, wounded and hungry, basically. And unlike the last time they were here with Fallen in this sort of situation, they don't have an easy out. But just as interesting was this previous episode, we focused mainly on that other group of adventurers, and they seem to be seeking out Elias and company. I guess the idea being that they might team up towards, thwarting the Mad Mage. Not that they particularly know it right now. You know, they also found Shiro, that Easterner as they call him, who was in love with Fallen and then decided to leave the group. Somewhat paradoxically in my view. Now, it's interesting that we're sort of, peering into Senshi's mind. Because I guess compared to the other two, he's sort of, an enigma, I guess. Although it seems like most dwarves, he does have this sort of sense of honor, but rather than being in relation to, mining or blacksmithing, it's more about food. And I guess that's nice, he feels a compulsion to make sure the party is well fed, otherwise it would be a black mark against him, but something tells me that, like in all instances where dwarf honor is concerned, this may cause an issue. So surely they can't eat those creatures, right? Them being humanoid. Although it seems like, Oh, that's interesting, and probably not good, If they disgorge spores like that upon death, I feel like, that's not good. I find it interesting that they're referred to as dryad flowers rather than dryads themselves. Because, I was kind of given to understand that dryads were, humanoid, I guess. Okay, so hay fever, that's what they're going for. I figured this was going to be some sort of horrific anaphylactic reaction whereby, these three guys, maybe they don't die, but they're darn close to it. Although I guess hay fever as it's being presented here is sort of an autoimmune response. I don't know if that's necessarily how it is in real life, but I suppose it could be. I mean, it is, if nothing else, presented as rather debilitating. Perhaps that's the real danger in these dryads, you know. Maybe hay fever isn't normally as bad as presented here, but it could be sort of magically augmented. And I guess the issue is, you know, the only way of fighting these dryads basically causes the hay fever anyways, so you're sort of in this no-win situation. More to the point, I don't know if these guys would make good food. And seeing as how everybody's sort of on their last legs, like, you know, what are they gonna do here? I do find it interesting that Senshi says, I need to protect you youngsters. I mean, that might be kinda true in a sense. Like, we don't really know how old Senshi is. I assume he is rather old on a human scale, but, like, the only young person is probably Laius, right? And even then, only comparatively. Because I think Chilchuk said he was pushing 40. He was like 37 or something like that. And Marcel being an elf, you know, she's got to be kind of old, right? I'm wondering if this is going to be like the root of conflict, you know? It's like, you know, none of us are actually young. I guess that's another issue, you know, without her staff, what use is Marcel really? Like, I mean, she's not exactly a good combatant in melee combat either. Oh, Laius, what are you doing? Surely they're not going to eat the dryads, right? I mean, Marcel's saying it like, you know, we can't afford to be picky, and it's a flower, after all. It merely resembles a human, but... a dryad fruit that looks like a human face on a pumpkin. Like, that's just unsettling, you know? I mean, sure, it might be good eating, but I feel like... yeah, that's just, that's unsettling. I don't think there's anything, anything you can do about it, any way you can get around it. Alright, so they're picking more, I guess, younger fruits, but, like, what's the deal gonna be here? It's got, like, the face of a baby on it? Yeah, they seem to have, some rotten luck of getting all this sort of, like, horrible vegetation. Because, I mean, they may do it the mandrakes before, but... man. You know, come to think of it, this is the first time they've actually gotten down to cooking in quite a while. Like, it's been... like, maybe 3 episodes or so? Like, they haven't done any real cooking since the dragon. I guess it's nice to get back to it, you know? This was sort of the initial point of interest for me, to a degree. You know, I like the idea of venturing in to rescue Laius' sister. And indeed, that is still sort of on the menu, but it's different now, you know? Wow, would you look at that? It turns out the food tastes good, therefore it's okay now. I mean, it is rather disquieting to see Marcel looking like she's eating out of a skull, you know? I feel like maybe they could have defaced the face, so to speak, to make the dining experience a little bit more palatable. So that's kind of interesting, I guess. You know, there has to be a way out of the dungeon, because if there weren't, it would disrupt magic. So I guess we sort of already knew that the dungeon is basically a source of magic. Well, that's interesting, I guess, that blocking off the dungeon would prevent people from using magic. Ooh. This is an interesting turn of events. You know, the idea here that Marcel can't fight the Mad Mage by herself, so she has to teach other people magic. I guess the idea being that other people can handle the menial things, like healing, so she can focus on weaving counterspells and firing off big spells and stuff like that. You know, I can't say I fault her reasoning, but I feel like, what's the point here, you know? Not everybody has aptitude for magic, and more to the point of a party is to have multiple specializations. You know, if everybody can do a little bit of everything, I guess that is helpful in its own right, but, you know, people should focus on what they're good at, I guess. So this seems to be, I guess, sort of a theme of the episode, people teaching other people stuff. But Senchi's still going on about Chilchuk being young. Oh. Oh no. Oh. Man, I feel like that's almost a fate worse than death for Chilchuk to have that talk. Man. You know, I feel like Elias is right to feel a little bit embarrassed about doing stuff like this. You know, it is certainly not something he's used to. Yeah, you know, I guess it is interesting that Elias seemingly does have some aptitude for magic. You know, this might be a setting wherein everybody can do a little bit if they try. Why is she getting all antsy about it? You know, she knew something like that would happen, right? I mean, she sort of warned everybody before that, like, when you heal stuff, it's sort of painful or uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I guess Lai succeeded, so that's something. I mean, sure, this is sort of a controlled setting, and, like, combat magical healing would be, I guess, a bit more difficult. I guess that's another interesting thing, too, sort of trying to mend her staff. Is, like, she intimated that her staff was sort of like a living or a quasi-living thing, you know? It can't just be fixed with duct tape and, you know, you call it a day. I find it interesting that she would use, like, little pieces of that dryad to try and do it, because on the one hand, it's probably the best thing on hand, but at the same time, I wouldn't be introducing elements of a monster into my tool that I depend on for casting magic. That feels like introducing more risk than is probably worth it, you know? Wow. Ooh. You know, Chilchuk is right here. Maybe Elias should work on his social skills so he doesn't become a party to black magic. You know, that is true. Wow. Chilchuk is, being the voice of reason here. You know, black magic is bad and you shouldn't associate with that. So I'm wondering where Marcel's going with this here, you know? I guess it makes sense in that if you want to boil a lake, it does take a lot of energy. And, you know, that's not necessarily something you have access to on hand. You know, I feel like... Oh. Ooh. Yeah, that's not good, it seems like, for Marcel to explain the dark magic as she briefly made Falin's body a part of the dungeon. I mean, that's real bad, I think, you know? Like, to essentially become part of the dungeon that is subject to the authority of this mad mage, and, you know, therefore subject to all these other weird laws and things. Man, this is not good at all. Like, if Laius is suffering this mana sickness that Marcel knew would happen, and then she's just sort of leaving him to twist in the wind while they investigate those other odd goings-on. Man, like, this seems like a really horrible, like, hallucinatory bad trip. Like, because he's seemingly seeing ghosts and stuff. Man. So it seems like this whole place just sort of occasionally rewrites itself and changes its pathways, and... Man. You know, if they want to get out of here, it's really going to be a difficult thing, I imagine. Ooh. Oh dear. Now, I'm fairly certain... Oh. Okay, no, it was a basilisk they fought before. This is a cockatrice, which is, very different totally. You know, I'm wondering what the meaningful difference is, because they do seem awfully similar. I mean, I guess this one's certainly bigger and a lot more dangerous looking. It seems more outright malevolent, whereas the basilisk was more of a wild animal, I guess. Man, if only they had somebody with a sword, you know? Because I feel like somebody who's really good at fighting, that might be able to help. You know, or somebody who knew about monsters, you know? If only they hadn't let Laius twist in the wind. Now, I feel like using the same strategy on the cockatrice might not work. Because, like, I guess the idea is they want to try intimidating it again, because that worked with the basilisk, but... something tells me Marcel's not going to put everything into it, you know? I mean, it's good in theory if you try and frighten off a monster by making it seem like you're big and scary, but Marcel's not exactly capable of doing it. And you know what? Doubting herself, that's really not going to help either, you know? Okay, so she's doing things her own way. Something tells me it's not going to work. I mean, the idea when Laius was doing it is you make yourself appear big and scary by shouting and doing all that. Marcel's kind of just, standing out in the open and brandishing her staff. You know, like, I don't think a monster would instinctively understand the danger. And I guess, you know, this is kind of what you get. Because, yeah, she did manage to kill it, but she also got bit in the process. And I feel like being bitten by the snakehead, that's, perhaps the worst possible outcome. You know, snakes being venomous and all that, cockatrices probably are too. Oh. Take off your pants. I'm wondering, why? Oh. Whoops. Okay. So, they weren't trying to prevent her from turning to stone. They were trying to ensure that she probably wouldn't break if they drop her. Oh. How are they gonna get out of this? Like, this seems like an awfully permanent thing to do when the magic user is turned into stone. Oh, dear. So, at least Lias knows what's going on here. An elf could probably heal from petrification quickly, but... there's no guarantee of that. Like... Oh... Oh no. Lias is going to attempt a healing spell, isn't he? This is gonna go horribly wrong. Or maybe not horribly wrong, but it's gonna be horribly painful and he's gonna suffer horrendous mana sickness. Yeah, something tells me, man. Hopefully they could fashion an anti-venom from the corpse of the cockatrice. I guess if nothing else they could eat it, but boy. Yeah, this is bad. Because, what happens if you break when you're stone and then you turn back? Like, that could be anything from, a finger breaking off to, losing a limb. Oh, there we go. Starting with the eyelashes, I guess. Why are they using Marcel as a cooking implement? I guess ostensibly they're trying to make her more stable so she doesn't fall over, but... that seems horrendously disrespectful almost. Man. So I'm wondering, surely even if Lias does succeed, there's gotta be some sort of blowback, right? Ooh, okay. I was absolutely certain she was gonna, shatter on the ground and lose an ear or something, but... Wow. Not to gloss over it, but they took, a couple days. I don't think that should be understated. They seem to be working rather tirelessly. And you know what? At least they got a meal out of it, too. Man. It is nice that they succeeded, but I think, it's important to realize that they weren't very methodical, so if they did find, a better cure, they have no idea of knowing what it is unless they want to test it again, which, they would be foolish to do. Oh, okay. Yeah, no gratitude, just, don't use my body in ways I don't approve of. Thanks, Marcel. I thought she was gonna be sincere about, sorry I, caused us to lose time. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.